Don't forget to subscribe. Afterwards, the wisest and most spiritual books from the greatest authors await you every day. And now buckle up, sit back and we'll begin. The Tibetan Book of the Dead. Chapter 4. The Natural Liberation Literature. The history of the texts. According to the texts themselves, the Book of Natural Liberation through Understanding and the Between was composed by the great adept Padmasambhava and dictated by him to his Tibetan consort, the Eugenie Yesht Sargyal. It was probably written in the late 8th century CE. Padmasambhava is a semi-legendary figure whose mythical biography contains some episodes similar to the life of Buddha Shakyamuni and others similar to those of the 84 great adepts. Padmasambhava's name is one of the root mantras of the fierce form of Avalokiteshvara, the horse-head-crowned Hayagriva. Fierce deities are still compassionate, but in a tough love way. Padmasambhava is said to have issued from the tongue of Amitabha Buddha in the western Pure Land of Bliss, in the form of a rainbow-trailing meteor. This was Amitabha's answer to an appeal from Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara to do something more for beings on earth in the kingdom of Adhyana, who were about to suffer a catastrophe due to the frustration of their king, who could not beget an heir. The meteor raced to earth and plunged into a lotus lake in a pleasant valley in the northwest Indian subcontinent, in what is now Pakistan. Where it landed, a giant lotus grew, within which, in due time, a beautiful boy was seen sitting in the midst of rainbow auras. When asked his origin, he said, "My mother is wisdom, my father compassion, my country the Dharma of reality." Padmasambhava is something like the Tibetan Superman. He is the great adept's adept. He is an emanation body Buddha, able to teach about the between because he can travel through it at will himself. After living for centuries in India accomplishing beneficial wonders, he went to Tibet at the invitation of Emperor Trisong Detsen to help him and the Indian abbot and philosopher Shantarakshita build the first monastery ever to take root in that warlike land. He tamed many demons in Tibet, gave many teachings, including the natural liberation, and eventually disappeared to his own paradise on earth, the Copper Glory Mountain, which is somewhere in Africa or Arabia. He still lives there, according to Tibetan mythic vision. Anticipating the great persecution of the 9th century that was to destroy much of early Tibetan Buddhism, Padmasambhava hid numerous texts throughout Tibet, including the Book of Natural Liberation. After the eventual restoration, traditions of spiritual treasure discoverers, Tib. Turton, emerged, who exhibited extraordinary powers of clairvoyance, including X-ray vision. They were often thought to be reincarnations of aspects of Padmasambhava himself, or of his 25 major tantric disciples. There are numerous accounts of their finding texts in caves high on cliffs, underground, in rocks and trees. Sometimes they found treasures in their minds, hidden there by the master during their former lives, sealed in the memory codes of their spiritual genes, and discovered at the right moment when people had need of them in some later life and century. This tradition was in keeping with ancient Indian Buddhist precedent, especially in the world of the great adepts. After all, the entire Universal Vehicle Sutra and Tantra collection itself was believed to have been discovered during the 1st century BCE by the adept Nagarjuna in the palace of the Dragon King at the bottom of the Indian Ocean. A famous treasure discoverer of the 14th century was called Karmalingpa. He is claimed by some to have been an incarnation of Padmasambhava himself. He discovered the Book of Natural Liberation collection in a cave on the Gampo Dar mountain in central Tibet. There have been numerous disputes, in Tibet as well as in the West, about the authenticity of such treasure teachings. These disagreements are not very important for us, since the best way to judge a text such as the Book of Natural Liberation is by its content, not by its cover. If its content contradicts the mainstream of the Buddhist tradition, if it seems incoherent, if it seems ill-founded, and so forth, then it can be dismissed as a crude fabrication. If its content is in keeping with the Buddhist intellectual, psychological, and spiritual tradition, if it is reasonably presented, lucid, meaningful, and useful, then it should be accepted as an authentic Buddhist teaching, an authentic treatise of Buddhist science, and a testament of Buddhist faith. Once that is established, if the tradition itself claims it was authored by Padmasambhava, then we might as well accept that too. As for exactly who Padmasambhava was he really a spiritual Superman, is he still alive, and so on, we do not need to pass judgment on these articles of religious faith in order to study and use the text. Naturally, we moderns are not predisposed to expect such things to be true, though secretly, most of us are still hoping. What is relevant, though, is why Karma Lingpa discovered the text when he did. The 14th century saw a great spiritual, institutional, and social renaissance in Tibet, generated by the many outstanding lamas of the Katam, Sakya, Kagyu, and Nyingma orders, and culminating in the great synthesis achieved by Lama Jate Tsongkhapa around the year 1400 CE. All these lamas were scholars, saints, scientists, and psychonaut explorers. A great many of them are believed to have attained the ability of what we can call lucid dying. They had practiced a perfection stage yogas we have outlined during the lifetime of total focus on enlightenment, and had achieved success in the inner moon walks, sun shots, and ultimate clear light shots of that yoga every bit as challenging and significant as the outer moon walks of our astronauts. Thus, when they died, they often manifested wondrous signs to those left behind. They maintained their own conscious continua of awareness, and they used the death occasion to enjoy and solidify their attainment of the three bodies of Buddhahood. On top of all that, they consciously chose to re-emanate from the clear light foundational reality, to take reincarnation in the meeting of parental genes in the womb of a Tibetan mother. They gave clues to their followers as to where to find them. They spoke up as small children and demanded to be returned to their home monasteries and circles of disciples. And they used life after life to develop their own enlightenment abilities, to develop those fortunate enough to be their disciples, and to continue to develop Tibetan, Himalayan, Mongolian, Manchurian, and Chinese societies toward fully enlightenment-oriented human civilizations. These Lama adepts became so successful and commonly accepted that Tibetans became accustomed to the presence of many reincarnations, so much so that they almost refused to accept the spiritual authority of any Lama who was not working through his or her third or seventh or 11th enlightened life. These lamas were the most advanced research scientists, the most charismatic holy men and women, the most respected social leaders, and the most beloved members of Tibetan society. Thus, the era of the 14th century was ripe for teachings to emerge that made the death-rebirth transition plain and clear to the wider society. The fact and phenomena of the between had long been known and fully described in the vast sutra collection and its commentary literature, translated from Sanskrit during the first 5 centuries of Tibetan Buddhism. The technologies of traversing the between, such as those taught in the Book of Natural Liberation, had long been available in the vast literature of the Tantras. The original collections of basic Tantras and their Indian commentaries by the great adepts formed a total of several hundred 2,000-page volumes of works, in English translation equivalent, translated from Indian language originals. A rich Tibetan secondary literature was rapidly proliferating, created by the hundreds of thousands of Tibetan scholars and adepts, educated in the thousands of monastic universities of all the orders established during these centuries of Renaissance. So the time had come for a treasure discoverer to unearth another jewel in the fabulous legacy of the lotus-born master Padmasambhava. Totally appropriate to this circumstance, a work was discovered that used the mandala, or purified universe, of the Guhyagarbha, esoteric quintessence Tantra, one of the most important old, that is, translated into Tibetan in the early period of the 8th and 9th centuries, Tantras. This mandala transmuted the ordinary human world into a perfected environment of exalted happiness, inhabited by a community of 100 mild and fierce archetypal Buddha deities, who represented the elements of human psychophysical existence in their fully evolved form. These deities were forms expressing their complete freedom from any coerced experience, complete happiness in their chosen functions, and complete capability to share their happiness with all others, according to those others' capacity to participate in that sharing. They serve as the templates for the goal of human evolution, and so they are archetypes for the enlightened fruition of all human physical and spiritual energies. This mandala had long been used by adepts for their own creative and transcendent meditations. The special contribution of this discovered work, then, was the expansion of access to the mandalic world of these contemplative archetypes. The ordinary person who had not received lifelong education at a monastic university and had not had ability, preparation, opportunity, and support to spend years in concentrated practice, was able to encounter this 100-deity mandalic community of her own perfected energies in the time of crisis, when she needed it most at the time of her death and after-death transition. Although the teaching urged her in direct and indirect ways not to wait for that critical juncture, it reached out to her anyway, not requiring initiation or study. It let her know that her intelligence for the understanding of reality, her power of vision, opportunity for independent choice, responsibility for far-reaching beneficence, and readiness for transformation were about to be temporarily boosted ninefold during the between experience. It offered her immediate access to the highest technology of between space travel, freely and easily. It allowed her, and family and friends, to have a much better sense of what the psychonauts had been through, what they had faced, and what they had achieved. This, at the very least, enabled her and her associates to increase their faith in the psychonaut lamas, be more open to receiving their help, be more alert on the lookout for their appearance as guides and allies during the difficulties of the between voyage. Naturally, the discovered treasure text was highly appreciated in Renaissance Tibet. It was copied and printed from the 15th century on, disseminated widely, and widely imitated. Parallel treatises were compassed, adding dimensions from lore contained elsewhere in the texts and in the received oral traditions of all 4 orders. These treatises developed in a wide variety. On the popular level, there are amulet texts, which list protective prayers and diagrams to be printed, tightly wound, and placed into metal amulets to be worn by living or dying persons. There are icon texts, which are themselves icons of Buddha's speech that were used as objects of worship. There are protection mantra texts, which list long and short mantras to be memorized and recited. At the more elite level, there are technical manuals for soul transmission practices, which instruct adepts in practices for consciously leaving the body. There have been ever more streamlined archetype mandala patterns, refining visualization methods and making them more memorable and efficacious. And there have been ever more explicit contemplative instructions, incorporating new ideas and more sophisticated techniques, garnered from the experiences of new generations of adept practitioners. The sections of the book. As might be expected, although the text has become more or less fixed over the centuries, it seems to vary somewhat in different recensions. The natural liberation collections themselves usually intimate that there are more works in the group than are included in a particular edition. The best organized collection I have so far encountered has the following table of contents, ordered according to the Tibetan alphabet. Index of works concerning the natural liberation through understanding, from the profound teaching, Natural Liberation Through Contemplating the Mild and Fierce Deities, 1 folio, Ka. The Prayer of the Three Buddha Body Mentor Yoga from the Natural Liberation Without Abandoning the Three Poisons, 3 folios, Ka. Prayer of the Reality Between from the Natural Liberation Through Understanding, 36 ff, Ga. Way of Arisal of the Fierce Deity Between, 21 ff, Nga. Prayer of Calling for Help from Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, 3 ff, circa. Root Verses of the Six Betweens, 3 ff, Cha. Prayer for Deliverance from the Straits of the Between, 4 ff, Ja. Orientation for the Existence Between from the Great Liberation Through Understanding, 35 ff, Naya. Liberation by Wearing, Natural Liberation of the Body, 24 ff, Ta. The Prayer for Refuge from All Terrors of the Between, 3 ff, Tha. The Dharma Practice, Natural Liberation of the Instincts, 26 ff, Da. The 100 Homages, Natural Liberation from Sins and Obscurations, 15 ff, Na. The Vast of the Mild and Fierce, The Confession Natural Liberation, 24 ff, Pa. The Natural Liberation Through Naked Vision, Identifying the Intelligence, 15 ff, Fa. Natural Liberation Through Signs, Investigating Death, 25 ff, Ba. Cheating Death, The Natural Liberation from Fear, 11 ff, Ma. The Instruction Teaching the Natural Form of Virtue and Vice in the Existence Between, The Existence Between Natural Liberation, 18 ff, Sa. Accessory Method of the Instruction Teaching the Natural Form of Virtue and Vice in the Existence Between, 8 ff, total 275 folios, printed in India from the Shahadadhara, the Great Ngasti, in the first day of the first month of 1985. Of these 275 folios, our main text here consists of translations of 150 folios, 108 folios of the main text, and 42 folios of preliminary prayers and appended practices. The 108 folios of the main text have been translated twice before, first by the Kazi Dawasamdap and W.H.Y. Evans Wentz team, and later by the Chögyam Trungpa Rinpoche and Francesca Fermantel team. Of the two sections included here in Part 3, the Dharma Practice, Natural Liberation of the Instincts is previously untranslated. The natural liberation through naked vision, identifying the intelligence, was previously translated by W.H.Y. Evans Wentz, and again by John M. Reynolds. Since it gives a sustained view of the philosophical underpinnings of the Book of Natural Liberation, I retranslated it from the Tibetan using my terminology and interpretation to fit with the rest of the new translation. Of the remaining sections untranslated here, the Fa section on the death signs has been translated by Glenn Mullen. The other sections will doubtless be translated in the future when scholars produce more erudite versions for research. In the spirit of the original treasure, which was intended by Master Padmasambhava as a practical help for people in general, I have tried to present a popular practical version of the Book of Natural Liberation. I have arranged the text in the way I thought would be most useful for those who are using it in regard to the actual occasion of death, either when they are approaching their own death or when someone near them is dying. I have placed the all-important prayers in a beginning section, in the order mentioned in the preliminaries section of the reality between, since according to the instructions they must be recited at the outset anyway. Then I present the three betweens: the death point, reality, and existence betweens, distinguishing by bold typeface those sections that should actually be read aloud in the presence of the dead. The sections of the translation are ordered as follows. A preliminary section of prayers: 3 body mentor yoga, help from the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, deliverance from the straits of the between, refuge from all terrors of the between, root verses of the 6 betweens, the guidebook to the betweens, preliminaries, the death point between, the mild deity reality between, the fierce deity reality between, the existence between, supplementary translations: the Dharma practice, natural liberation of the instincts, the natural liberation through naked vision, identifying the intelligence. Both the Tibetan editions I had to work with are somewhat rough and unpolished, as is usual for popular texts. Misprints are frequent, spellings are irregular, and the two texts sometimes differ in their readings in small ways. A useful scholarly enterprise would be to gather a large number of Book of Natural Liberation editions and prepare a critical edition. I have not done this and have not burdened the text with cumbersome footnotes, giving variant readings in the editions that I have. The dead and the bereaved are not in the mood for such scholarly niceties. I have used Sanskrit names for deities wherever possible, using a phonetically obvious transliteration system. Their names were originally given in Indian languages, which the Tibetans translated into Tibetan, since the Indo-European diphthongs and consonant clusters were difficult for them to pronounce. English is an Indo-European language and finds the Indian names more congenial. I have already given an elucidation of the main background concepts I think you will need. I also provide a running commentary to the translation, distinguished from the translation by its smaller print. Unfamiliar terms are footnoted at the first occurrence and otherwise can be looked up in the glossary. As I conclude this work, I am struck by the preoccupation with euthanasia among the terminally ill and elderly in America. It is clear that the Book of Natural Liberation deplores suicide unless the person has already attained liberation or is confident he or she can do so in the between. Suicide is the negative evolutionary action of taking life. For a tantric practitioner, it is deicide, since the body is itself a deity body and is the abode of numerous micro-deities. On the other hand, people are trying to become less passive about their suffering trying to assert some control over their lives by asserting control over their deaths. They are finally growing up to the fact that authorities have limited knowledge and ability. They are waking up to the fact that the quality of living is more important than the raw quantity of time involved. And they are bravely making their own decisions. Unfortunately, those who consider themselves terminal in some disease and in pain, who may have used the suicide manual or contemplate doing so, most likely believe that destroying their brains is itself the achievement of instant liberation, pictured as total oblivion. This will turn out to have been a tragic miscalculation for some of them. There are surely those who are habitually happy and cheerful people, kind and generous and able to let go without much trouble, who will manage to recognize the brighter light and merge with it, in spite of their surprise at not finding oblivion, and even without formal preparation. But there will also be those who are more tense and rigid, who try to keep control at all costs, unless they have a guarantee of nothingness, who are very attached to their bodies, their possessions, their identities, their comforts. These people will really suffer in the maelstrom of the between and will have poor chances of coming out well, in a good position on the wheel of possibilities, much less of attaining liberation. So I hope that at least some of these people, or their loved ones and friends, find this book, this great book of natural liberation through understanding in the between, and try to put it to use, even along the lines of Pascal's wager. I hope the work will be of benefit to them. If it helps even one, it will fulfill the aim of Master Padmasambhava and his colleagues, and my effort will have been worthwhile. May all beings be blessed by the three jewels. May the planet be at peace, and the earth stay beautiful. May all beings be happy. May all have good fortune. Chapter 5. The Between Prayers. The following 5 prayers and verses are the backbone of the entire book of natural liberation. They are the core program of the whole process. They are meant to be memorized and then recited at different points while giving the longer instructions. First, the three-body mentor yoga provides a meditation on the ideal transformation process envisaged by the Book of Natural Liberation. It brings that ideal close by focusing it through the person of the spiritual mentor, a person well known to, and revered by, the practitioner. The other 4 prayers form a set that is frequently referred to throughout the Book of Natural Liberation. The prayer for help is a straightforward prose appeal to the three jewels, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, to extend their saving compassion to one who is dying or is in the process of the between. The prayer for deliverance follows the pattern of experiences in the reality between, praying for all the elements of ordinary existence to transform into agents of liberation. The prayer for refuge continues entreating the enlightened beings for assistance and protection. The emphasis is not so much on liberation as on refuge throughout future lives. It accords more with the existence between, when it is harder to achieve complete liberation, and the concern is more with securing a favorable rebirth. The root verses of the 6 betweens provide a final summary of the 6 betweens, their contemplation transforming the entire cycle of time into a vehicle for enlightenment. If you are using this book for someone who is in the process of dying or has already entered the between, it might be better to read the three-body mentor yoga and the prayer for help to set up a favorable context, and then skip to the reality between itself, encountering the individual verses of the other prayers set in the context of the general instructions. In this entire translation section, boldface type indicates direct translations that are meant to be read aloud in the performance of the natural liberation for someone in the dying and between processes. Material set in ordinary type is in two sizes. The larger size indicates direct translations of the treasure text's original instructions and commentary. The smaller size indicates commentary and instructions by the translator. The prayer of the three-body mentor yoga. I include this particular natural liberation prayer, subtitled The Natural Liberation Without Abandoning the Three Poisons, first. It is first in the original collection, and it most concisely and beautifully establishes the context you need to use the subsequent natural liberations. The importance of the personal-mentor relationship reliance on a person who can represent to you the ultimate reality and power of the cosmos, however you define it, cannot be overstated. A mentor yoga is a visualization meditation, invoking the presence of the spiritual teacher who has initiated you into the sacred realm of your chosen form of Buddhahood. Once the presence has been invoked, the mentor is visualized as merging with you indivisibly, so that you become the teacher, the Buddha, the authority. Then you send out your blessing to all beings as the Buddha mentor has given his blessing to you. Since most of us have not been initiated, we can think of this mentor as Padmasambhava, the author of the Book of Natural Liberation. The three bodies of a Buddha are a way to think about the inconceivability of a perfect Buddha, expressing an enlightened being's oneness with ultimate reality, personal beatitude, and emanational creativity for the sake of others. The mentor should be visualized as an embodiment of these three aspects of ultimacy, so that you cultivate the feeling of grace when in the presence of the mentor. The mentor should be visualized in the imaginative space of the mind's eye before you, seated on a royal jewel throne of divine proportions, surrounded by all the Buddhas, deities, angels, and other powerful, wise, and beloved beings. If your personal mentor is a loved one, a priest or holy person of any religion, or a doctor, healer, or shaman, then visualize him or her accordingly. The three poisons, greed, hate, and delusion, are the three primary addictions that drive the unenlightened, suffering-ridden life cycle. Liberation that occurs without eliminating them is truly natural, the immediate transformation of the great perfection teachings. Av, Ka-a. Is the mantric, or magically creative, sound that resonates with transcendent oneness, and so is used at the beginning of mantras to invoke the transcendent or divine into manifestation. Av-ka-a is more unusual. Av indicates voidness, the lack of rigid identity in all things, and hence their malleability for the creative artistry of great compassion. Ka represents the A sound of cosmic creativity, emerging from the K position of beginning, K being the first consonant. A is the mantra of enlightened speech. To the unborn, non-developing, truth body mentor, in the palace of the perfect, all-pervading realm of truth, with reverent devotion, ardently I pray. Self-freed without abandoning misknowing delusion, I freely accept the perfect truth body blessing, as effortless, non-artificial, primal wisdom. Here you focus on your mentor's oneness with absolute reality, feeling yourself united with that reality through the presence of your mentor. The instant you remember the infinity of the ultimate, you feel the overwhelming flood of the grace of your own inseparability from the ultimate, recognizing that it is impossible for anything ever to have not been one with its irresistibly infinite presence. You instantly feel free, and even the mental addiction of delusion feels naturally transformed into the sense of the presence of the Absolute. no longer needing to be abandoned. You visualize a deep blue sparkling sapphire hum at the heart of your mentor. It radiates a sapphire blue light that enters your heart center and fills it with the buoyant wisdom of freedom. This visualization sequence is associated with receiving the wisdom intuition initiation, practicing the perfection stage, the clear light transparency, the moment of death, the mind, and the truth body. To the deathless, great bliss beatific body mentor in the palace of bright pure wisdom's universal bliss, with reverent devotion, ardently I pray. Self-freed without abandoning lust and longing, I freely accept the effortless beatific body blessing as the natural liberation of inner wisdom's universal bliss. You focus on your mentor's ceaseless feeling of beatific bliss, noticing his or her smiling, loving look upon you. Instantly you feel flooded with the same joy and bliss of your oneness with the ultimate, articulated as your individual freedom and happiness, freed from any agitation of lust or longing for any supposed happiness outside of yourself. You visualize a bright ruby red eye at the throat center of your mentor, radiating brilliant rays of ruby light. These rays shine upon you and enter your own throat center, blessing your speech with buoyant enlightened wisdom. This visualization is associated with receiving the secret initiation, attaining the magic body, the between speech, and the beatific body. To the ineffable, self-created emanation body mentor, in the palace of the flawless perfect lotus, with reverent devotion, ardently I pray. Self-freed without abandoning misconceiving hatred. I freely accept the effortless emanation body blessing as self-evident wisdom's introspective self-illumination. Here you focus on your mentor's boundlessly creative artistry of emanating active embodiments of enlightenment to interact compassionately with other beings. Instantly you feel partnership in Lotus Clan activity of manifesting distinct embodiments of liberative art, freed from any agitation or irritation at the ugliness and intractability of the forms of life. You visualize a glistening diamond at the mentor's crown center, radiating dazzling rays of white light that fill up your own brain center. This visualization is associated with receiving the vase initiation, practicing the creation stage, life, the body, and the emanation body. To the impartial great bliss triple body mentor, in the palace of authentic clear light introspection, with reverent devotion, ardently I pray. Self-freed without abandoning subject-object dualism, I freely accept the great bliss triple body blessing as original wisdom's triple body spontaneity. Here you focus on the mentor and yourself becoming indivisibly merged as the absolute, beatific, and emanation bodies of enlightenment in the great perfection spontaneity. Instantly you feel complete and perfect within yourself, integrating the infinity of the Buddhaverse within you, freed from any sense of duality about yourself and any alien, objective universe. You visualize diamond, ruby, and sapphire lights, radiating from the Amaham at the mentor's crown, throat, and heart centers, and filling your three centers with white, red, and blue lights and bliss. Then the mentor dissolves into light rays that merge into you, and you and your mentor become one and the same. This visualization is associated with receiving the fourth initiation, the attainment of the integration stage, the practice of the great perfection, the enlightened death between life indivisible reality, the body speech mind indivisible, and the three bodies indivisible. O compassion on these suffering conscious beings who wander in the life cycle, darkened with delusions, not knowing their own minds as the infinite truth body may, all of them attain the body of truth. Now you have yourself become the mentor and so no longer need any further blessing or grace for yourself. You look out upon the infinite field of beings in your mind's eye, seeing them look up to you for help and happiness. You first of all see through them as ultimately one with the infinite transparency of ultimate reality. The deep blue sapphire hum at your heart center gently explodes with radiant blue light that shines into their hearts, making them, too, feel one with ultimate reality. The happiness they feel from receiving that blessing radiates back to the hum as more blue light, making it more and more inexhaustibly powerful. O compassion on these conscious beings, misguided in desires, who wander in the life cycle, identifying with lust and clinging, not knowing their self-awareness as great bliss beatific body may, all of them attain the body of beatitude. Now you, the mentor, look out again upon the infinite field of beings in your mind's eye, seeing them look up to you for help and happiness. You notice their bliss at feeling one with the infinite transparency of ultimate reality. The bright ruby red awe at your throat center gently explodes with radiant red light that shines into their throats, intensifying their happiness further, so they overflow with the impulse to express their beatitude. That bliss sends forth infinite poetic expressions of love and joy, which send more ruby light rays back to the awe at your throat, making it more and more inexhaustibly powerful. O compassion on these misconceiving beings who wander in the life cycle with the dualistic mind of hate, not knowing their own minds as the born free emanation body may, they all attain the body of emanation. Now you, the mentor, look out upon the infinite field of beings in your mind's eye, seeing them look up to you in intensifying bliss. You notice that their bliss flows toward infinite other beings who feel excluded from the great perfection of reality. The diamond white arm at your crown center gently explodes with radiant white light that shines into their crowns, intensifying their bliss further, so they overflow with the impulse to emanate in physical forms that can interact with infinite alienated beings. Infinite emanation bodies stream forth from the network of diamond light rays, interacting with infinite beings, pleasing and freeing them. Their happiness and relief flows back as more white light, making your diamond arm light even more inexhaustibly powerful. O compassion on all beings who are not yet Buddhas, trapped by the presence habit of addictive and objective veils, not knowing their own minds as the indivisible three bodies may they all attain the three bodies of Buddhahood. Now you, the mentor, look out upon the infinite field of beings in your mind's eye, seeing them look up to you in infinite interpenetrating happiness. You notice that their bliss is integrated with their sense of oneness with you and all beings in ultimate reality. Their rays of blessing toward you become as infinitely powerful as your rays toward them. You feel the infinitely expanding bliss of interpenetration with them, which seems a multifocal radiance of blue, red, and white light rays, swirling infinitely around the infinite communion of you all, become Aham, the body, speech, and mind of all enlightened ones. You celebrate the inconceivability of the perfect integration of your deep blue ultimate unborn primal oneness, your deep red alembricing communicating artistry, and your diamond white interreflecting individuating manifestation. The presence habit is the deepest level of misknowing conceptualization, which maintains the sense of being here now as something or someone finite, apart from the inconceivable Buddhaverse, supporting addictive and objective instincts of self-preservation, and blocking awareness of the primal bliss wisdom indivisible of the eternal reality of enlightenment. The prayer for help from the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. This prayer is the first of the four frequently mentioned as a set throughout the natural liberation literature. It can be used when you are confronting your own death, the death of another, or just in general, when you intensify your spiritual practice by the remembrance of death. The parts to be recited aloud are set and boldface type. The first syllable, is the mantric sound that functions as the invocation of the presence of all the infinite numbers of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas throughout the infinite universes. This is to be performed at the time of one's own death, or whenever else. This prayer for help from the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. First, one should make offerings to the three jewels, either physically or imaginatively. Hold incense in your hand and speak with strong intensity. Here you call upon the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas as messianic heroes or heroines who live only to liberate all beings from suffering. You are invoking the most advanced Bodhisattvas, who are very highly evolved, close to Buddhahood, and have the same powers of intervention as gods or angels. Some of them, such as Avalokiteshvara, the Lord of Compassion, or Tara, the goddess of miracles, are actually Buddhas already, but have vowed to help beings by appearing as Bodhisattvas. The three jewels are the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha jewels, the precious teacher, teaching, and community, which provide refuge from the unenlightened life cycle and its horrors. Thus they are considered jewels of the greatest value for suffering beings. For these prayers referring to a specific person, the reader in a specific situation will have to supply the name of the person and the gender for the pronouns. I will use the feminine, just to vary the usual assumption. O 10 directions Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, compassionate, all-knowing, all-seeing, all-loving, you are the refuge of beings. By the power of your compassion, please come to this place. Please accept these physical and visualized offerings. You compassionate ones command inconceivable all-knowing wisdom, miraculous deeds performed with loving compassion, and power to give refuge. O you compassionate ones! This person named so and so is going from this world to the beyond, leaving this world, making the great migration. She has no friend. She has great suffering, no refuge, no protector, and no allies. Her perception of this life is declining. She is going to another life realm, entering a thick darkness, falling into a great abyss, and getting lost in a dense forest. She is driven by the power of evolution, going into a vast wilderness, swept off by a huge ocean. She is blown away by the wind of evolution, going to a place without firm ground, entering a vast battleground. She is being seized by a great devil, terrified by the messengers of Yama. She is going from one evolutionary existence to another, without any power of her own. The time has come when she must go, friendless and alone. Therefore, may you compassionate ones please give refuge to this helpless one named so and so. Protect her. Be her ally. Save her from the great darkness of the between. Hold her back from the harsh red wind of evolution. Save her from the great terror of Yama. Deliver her from the great long straits of the between. O compassionate ones! Don't hold back on your compassion. Help her. Don't let her fall into the three horrid states. Don't waver from your ancient vows. Extend your compassion power. O Buddhas and Bodhisattvas! Enfold this one named so and so with your compassionate art and power. Look after her with compassion. Don't abandon her to the power of negative evolution. I strongly pray that you three jewels save her from the suffering of the between. You and others should recite this 3 times with sincere faith. Then you should use the prayer's deliverance from the straits of the between and refuge from all terrors of the between. This prayer for help from the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas will not be exhausted until the life cycle is empty. Samaya. The messengers of Yama are the wraith-like minions of Yama, the Indian and Tibetan Lord of Death. The belief is that these fearsome creatures, often with Indian buffalo heads, come upon your soul at the moment of death and drag you away into the nether region where Yama resides. There you are judged, your good and evil deeds are weighed, and your next life in the 6 realms of beings is determined. The life cycle is called samsara. It is the state of existence of any being who is not completely enlightened. It becomes empty only when all beings have been liberated, when all have become Buddhas. Since the number of beings is infinite, this will take infinitely long when thought of in a linear way. Since enlightenment is the realization of the infinity of time and the ultimate unreality of all moments of time, the life cycle empties itself in the realization of each enlightened being. It is not to be taken too literally. Samaya in Sanskrit literally means vow. It is often uttered after a text considered esoteric or one in which strong determination is manifested as a seal of that determination. The prayer for deliverance from the straits of the between. This prayer for deliverance, the following prayer for refuge, and the root verses almost flow together as one prayer. This first prayer summarizes the elements of existence personified as deities. The 5 Buddha clans, which represent the 5 wisdoms, the scientist deities, and the fierce deities. It calls on them for deliverance, focusing upon the transmutation of the 5 poisons of ignorance, lust, hate, pride, and envy. The verses follow the sequence of the experiences of the reality between. The verses are recited for the between being in the text. A person preparing for the transition would do well to memorize them. Homage to the host of mentors, archetypes, and angels. Please guide me on the path with your great love. When I roam the life cycle driven by sheer error, may the oral transmission mentors lead me on the path of unwavering light of learning, thought, and meditation. And may their consort host of angels back me on the way, deliver me from the dangerous straits of the between, and carry me to perfect Buddhahood. When I roam the life cycle driven by strong delusion, may the Lord Vairocana lead me on the path of the clear light of reality perfection wisdom. May his consort Buddha Datvishvari back me on the way, deliver me from the dangerous straits of the between, and carry me to perfect Buddhahood. When I roam the life cycle driven by strong hate, may the Lord Vajrasattva lead me on the path of the clear light of the mirror wisdom. May his consort Badalachana back me on the way, deliver me from the dangerous straits of the between, and carry me to perfect Buddhahood. When I roam the life cycle driven by strong pride, may the Lord Ratnasambhava lead me on the path of the clear light of the equalizing wisdom. May his consort Buddha Mamaki back me on the way, deliver me from the dangerous straits of the between, and carry me to perfect Buddhahood. When I roam the life cycle driven by strong passion, may the Lord Amitabha lead me on the path of the clear light of discriminating wisdom. May his consort Buddha Pandaravasini back me on the way, deliver me from the dangerous straits of the between, and carry me to perfect Buddhahood. When I roam the life cycle driven by strong envy, May the Lord Amagasiti lead me on the path of the clear light of the all-accomplishing wisdom. May his consort Buddha Samayatara back me on the way, deliver me from the dangerous straits of the between, and carry me to perfect Buddhahood. The following verse is quoted in the text of the reality between, but not included in the versions of this prayer I have encountered so far. It takes the 5 poisons, 5 Buddhas and consorts, and 5 wisdoms altogether. When I roam the life cycle driven by the 5 strong poisons, may the Lord Victors of the 5 clans lead me on the path of the clear light of the 4 wisdoms in combination. May the 5 consort Buddhas back me on the way and deliver me from the impure lights of the 6 realms. Delivering me from the dangerous straits of the between, may they carry me to the 5 supreme pure lands. When I roam the life cycle driven by strong instincts, may the hero scientists lead me on the path of the clear light of orgasmic wisdom. May their best consort angel host support me from behind, deliver me from the dangerous straits of the between, and carry me to perfect Buddhahood. Vidyadhara in Sanskrit literally means knowledge holder, and is translated here as hero scientist. They are the minscientists of ancient India and Tibet. They do not wear white coats, and their laboratories are in the inner realms, accessed through the mastery of the mind and its faculties. But they have been the quintessential scientists of that non-materialist civilization. I translate the Tibetan land skies, the Sanskrit sahaja, which literally means produced by connection as orgasm or adjectivally as orgasmic. It is often translated innate or natural, but these terms are too general. It specifically refers to that great bliss of the melting of self-habits, arising from the realization of selflessness, a bliss whose mundane metaphor is sexual bliss. Orgasmic may shock at first, but it is exactly on target for this ordinary life and death, transcending totalization of orgasmic bliss by the inconceivable wisdom of selflessness. When I roam the life cycle driven by strong hallucinations, may the host of mild and fierce lords lead me on the path of the light that conquers terrifying visions of hate and fear. May the space goddess angel hosts back me on the way, deliver me from the dangerous straits of the between, and carry me to perfect Buddhahood. Hey! May the space elements not arise as enemies. And may I behold the realm of the sapphire Buddha. May the water elements not arise as enemies, and may I see the realm of the diamond Buddha. May the earth elements not arise as enemies, and may I behold the realm of the golden Buddha. May the fire elements not arise as enemies, and may I behold the realm of the ruby Buddha. May the wind elements not arise as enemies, and may I behold the realm of the emerald Buddha. May the rainbow elements not arise as enemies, and may I behold the realm of the rainbow Buddha. May sounds, lights, and rays not arise as enemies, and may I behold the magnificent realm of the mild and fierce lords. May I know all sounds as my own sounds. May I know all lights as my own lights. May I know all rays as my own rays. May I know the between's reality as mine. And may I realize the realm of the 3 Buddha bodies. The prayer for refuge from all terrors of the between. This prayer is a general appeal to the various deities one might appeal to for refuge in the death transition. It does not follow closely the pattern of the visions in the reality between, but rather rehearses elements generally involved in the whole process, prepares the between being for the difficulties of the experience, and confirms the feeling of refuge extending on into future lives in all situations. It should likewise best be memorized by people preparing to guide their own death. Hey! When the impulse of my lifespan is worn out, as dear ones cannot help beyond this world, and I must wander alone in the between, may Buddhas mild and fierce exert the force of their compassion and clear the dense fog of darkness of misknowledge. Now that I wander alone, apart from my loved ones, and all my visions are but empty images, may the Buddhas exert the force of their compassion and stop the fear and hate-drawn terrors of the between. When the 5 lights of brilliant wisdom dawn, fearlessly, bravely, may I know them as myself. When the forms of the Lords mild and fierce arise, bold and fearless, may I recognize the between. Now when I suffer by the power of negative evolution, may the archetype deities dispel that suffering. When reality crashes with 1,000 thunders, may they all become Om Mani Padme Hum. When I'm pulled by evolution without recourse, may the Lords mild and fierce dispel my suffering. When I suffer due to evolutionary instincts, may the clear light bliss Samadhi dawn upon me. When I'm born by apparition in the existence between, may evil prophecies of perverse devils not come true. When I arrive wherever by the power of thought, may fears created by negative evolution not occur. When wild beasts of prey roar savagely, may it become the Dharma sound Om Mani Padme Hum. When I am driven by snow, rain, wind, and darkness, may I find the divine vision of brilliant wisdom. May all beings, compatible types in the between, avoid all rivalry and find rebirth in high estates. When I am hungry and thirsty from intense addictions, may I not suffer real hunger, thirst, heat, and cold. When I behold the coupling of my next life's father and mother, may I see them as the Lord of Compassion Father Mother themselves, free consciously to choose my birth. Then for the sake of others may I obtain the best body adorned with the signs and marks. Here the prayer refers to the practice of visualizing the parental couple that all between beings behold, in the process of being reborn in mammalian embodiments as the Lord of Compassion, Avalokiteshvara, and his consort, the female Buddha Tara. The expression Father-Mother, Tib. Yayum, is commonly used in tantric contexts to refer to a Buddha deity couple in the sexual union pose. Having obtained for myself the finest body living, may all who see or hear me swiftly be delivered. Not pursuing any negative evolutions, may I follow and develop all my existing merits. Wherever I am born in every life to come, may I meet again my archetype deity of this life. Speaking and understanding the moment I am born, may I have the retention to remember my former lives. Knowledge great and small, average and various. May I understand it just by hearing it or seeing it. May good luck prevail in the land wherein I'm born, and may all beings be endowed with happiness. You victors mild and fierce, as are your bodies, your retinues, lifespans, and your pure worlds, and your superior auspicious signs of greatness, may I and all others become just like you. By the vast compassion of the all-goods mild and fierce. By the power of the truth of reality perfection, and by the blessing of tantric adepts single-minded success, may I accomplish just what I have prayed for. The root verses of the 6 betweens. These root verses summarize the 6 betweens, each verse formulating the insights and resolves that are keys to the successful redirection of each being away from the continuing life cycle between, toward liberation and enlightenment. Hey! Now when the life between dawns upon me, I will abandon laziness, as life has no more time, unwavering, enter the path of learning, thinking, and meditating, and taking perceptions and mind as path, I will realize the three bodies of enlightenment. This once that I have obtained the human body is not the time to stay on the path of distractions. Hey! Now when the dream between dawns upon me, I will give up corpse-like sleeping in delusion, and mindfully enter unwavering the experience of reality. Conscious of dreaming, I will enjoy the changes as clear light. Not sleeping mindlessly like an animal, I will cherish the practice merging sleep and realization. Hey! Now when the meditation between dawns upon me, I will abandon the host of distracting errors, focus in extreme free experience, without releasing or controlling, and achieve stability in the creation and perfection stages. Giving up business, now one pointed in meditation. I won't surrender to the power of erroneous addictions. Hey! Now when the death point between dawns upon me, I will give up the preoccupations of the all-desiring mind, enter unwavering the experience of the clarity of the precepts, and transmigrate into the birthless space of inner awareness. About to lose this created body of flesh and blood, I will realize it to be impermanent illusion. Hey! Now when the reality between dawns upon me, I will let go of the hallucinations of instinctive terror, enter the recognition of all objects as my mind's own visions, and understand this as the pattern of perception in the between. Come to this moment, arrived at this most critical cessation, I will not fear my own visions of deities mild and fierce. Hey! Now when the existence between dawns upon me, I will hold my will with mind one-pointed and increase forcefully the impulse of positive evolution. Locking the womb door, I will remember to be revulsed. Now courage and positive perception are essential. I will give up envy and contemplate all couples as my spiritual mentor, father and mother. With mind distracted, never thinking, death is coming to slave away on the pointless business of mundane life, and then to come out empty it is a tragic error. Recognition of necessity is the holy teaching of the gods, so won't you live this divine truth from now on? These are the words of the great adepts. If you don't put the mentor's precept in your mind, won't you be the one who deceives yourself? And that's not all, our experts and regular viewers respond to all comments. Also check if you forgot to subscribe and set your bell to receive notifications about new audiobooks and other useful self-development materials that we release regularly. Join in the discussions, don't forget to give likes and, if possible and inspired, support the development of the channel financially. All useful links will be in the description and the first attached comment. Goodness, love and wisdom to all. And now move on to watch the next part of the video at the links below, or choose something from the playlists of the channel and those you see on the screen.